Welcome to the Talk and Chatter experience powered by Gasoline Alley. Today's guest is proud father and American flat track racer, Cory Texter. Welcome, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really like the show, so it's cool to be on it.
You're definitely one of those people that straight away was someone I really dreamed of having as a guest. So, thanks for coming in here. And, let's get on with it. Who's Cory Texter?
Oh man, Shayna's brother is probably the most well-known term I get, but yeah, like you said, proud father. I have a little boy named Cruz who's 3 years old now. So I'm a father first and foremost, but I also race motorcycles, go in circles. I'm a hustler. I do a podcast. I promote a race. I have an amateur team that I promote and do. Just a guy that loves motorcycles, loves flat track, and just anything with two wheels, man. I'm all about it.
It's definitely something that I've seen and have seen over the past while is your love for the sport must be so huge because the amount of time you must dedicate it away from your own professional riding is a lot, hey?
Yeah, it's a lot to take on. I think most racers just like to focus on racing and they just want to have their head focused racing, training, and things like that. But for me to do the other stuff, the podcast and the amateur team and things like that, it kind of levels me out. It takes me away from just being so intense about my racing. I get to kind of do other things in life and kind of prepare myself for a life after racing a bit, man. I'm 33 years old, so I don't know how much longer I'll continue to do this. I mean, I feel great, but I'm getting up there in age. It's so crazy to think about, but just kind of getting some things going for when I retire. I want to stay involved in the sport. I want to grow the sport. And man, I really like growing and improving the sport that I've grown up in. I mean, I was at the racetrack when I was 2 weeks old. I've been going these races since I was a kid, so I have a strong passion for it, and I take a lot of pride in the sport that I compete in.
So where did it all start for you?
Yeah, basically my dad was a pro. He was a GNC ranked pro rider back in the Camel Pro days. He raced against Chris Carr, Scott Parker, Ricky Graham. I mean, he raced against Jay Springsteen, all the legends. He actually had a national number for 16 years. So he was at it a long time, very competitive guy. He road raced a little bit. He was a two-time 883 twin sports champion. So he raced like the Bostrom brothers and some pretty fast road race guys. And he was actually, I think, a better road racer than flat tracker. But so it started with my dad. We owned a Harley Davidson dealership here in Pennsylvania. So we have strong background in Harley Davidson and things like that. And then I think I was 3 or 4, man. I got into it. He got me a PW50 like most kids and just started riding. And to be honest, I didn't really start racing full time until I was 15. I was a wrestler growing up. I ran track. I played soccer. So I was into a lot of different things. My dad and my mom were divorced, so it was hard for me to race full time, me and Shayna. So we kind of did other things. And then it came to when we were like 15, I did a couple local races on a 450 and I did really well. And my dad's like, hey, you want to go down to Daytona Bike Week and see how you do? And we went down to Bike Week and I did really well. And then we went to the Amateur Nationals, did really well. And it just sucks you in. Like, it got more and more serious. And before I knew it, I started racing in 2003. I was pro by 2006. So you just jump into it. And here we are. It's 2021. So I'm still doing it.
And it's crazy to think you're 33, but we're talking 17 years of pro, or 15 years of pro sort of thing. It's a long time, eh?
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, it's not, when I sit down and I break it down year by year, it kind of makes sense. But just to think I'm one of the older guys in the sport now, I swear I blinked because I was a rookie. It just seems like yesterday I was a rookie. I was the youngest guy, and now there's not many guys that are older than me. So yeah, everything comes full circle. This sport, that's why it's hard to take it for granted because it just comes and goes so quick. And I tell the kids I talk to now, it's like, man, take everything, appreciate every little moment with this. Appreciate the hustle, appreciate the long drives to the racetrack, the bad results, the hard training, appreciate the shitty moments in racing. Everyone, they want to talk about the wins. They want to talk about everything that's good in racing. But I've learned to appreciate the hustle and the grind because I'll look back when I'm older and I'll miss everything. So I've learned to appreciate every step, every process that comes with it.
And those hard days are the ones that stand out, aren't they? Where you've turned it around or something like that. No matter what it is, the car, your truck breaking down on the way and you're missing something, and they're the ones you remember vividly, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was, my dad passed away in 2010. We went from everything came pretty easy to us when we were amateurs. We had a really good support system. My dad, we owned a Harley shop, and we were really well taken care of as amateurs. And when my dad passed away, he had a lot of debt. He spent a lot of money, a lot of bills we had to pay for, and I didn't know if we'd race again. So I basically went 2 years without racing. I didn't know if I'd ever get back into it. So those 2 years, I basically thought I retired at age 22. I thought I was done. So to be where I'm at now, I just appreciate it because I honestly didn't think I'd ever get back to racing in general, and now to compete for championships every year. And it's just I hustle so much harder because I just don't take it for granted. I just really appreciate what I'm able to do every week, and I truly enjoy it.
What was it like growing up in a Harley Davidson dealership in Pennsylvania?
Oh man, I saw a lot of things I probably shouldn't have seen when I was a kid, man. All the bikers coming in. I'm on a first name basis with Willie G. Davidson and Nancy. When I see them, they come up and say hi, Cory. And I have a really strong love and support for Harley Davidson. And it's crazy because now I compete against a Harley. I'm on a Yamaha, but yeah, I just growing up in a Harley shop with Shayna and my dad and my grandpa. It was just the Texter name is just really, really big in the Harley industry. And I bleed orange and black, man. I really do. I'm a Harley kid, and I'll always be a Harley kid, and I support Yamaha because that's the brand I ride now, and I really like the program I'm on right now. But I got a lot of Harley in me, and it's hard to hide it.
So before we started on this computer here, you're in another room on another computer. We're going to do this, but we had an issue. Whose jacket was that behind you, the Harley Davidson one?
Yeah, that was my pops. That was my dad's. That was one of his rookie leather jackets he had when he raced the American Flat Track. Well, I guess it was AMA Pro Racing Series back in the day. So I'm really big on keeping memorabilia. I've never sold a set of my leathers, like my custom leathers. I've never given any away. I've never sold any. I have every single set of custom leathers I've ever had. And Shayna's the same way. We've always kept it's just something to look back on, man. I really I take a lot, like I said, I take a lot of pride in what I do and the history and things like that. But yeah, there's my pops. So they hang in the living room. They were a gift. Somebody, I forget who got that for us actually, but it's a really cool gift. It's in my living room.
It's very cool. I seen it. I was like, wow, that's obviously got a bit of history to you.
Yeah.
What do we got up in the background there? Is that your 2019 plate?
Yeah, that's old news. That was last year's Production Twins win. It was really cool moment for me. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, I didn't know if I'd ever race again, about 8 to 9 years ago. So to come back at age, I think I was 32. Yeah, I guess I was 32. To win that championship was really cool for me. Just growing up in the sport, being a flat track kid my whole life. And finally, Shayna came close to winning a championship so many times, and to kind of break through for the family and get win a championship for just the Texters. It was cool to do, man. And I was really happy to have that moment.
So back in 2003, when you first started getting into it again, or getting into it, were you decent at the start? Did it take time? How was it?
I was decent. I was always a decent rider. I was never shitty. I was never phenomenal. Even growing up through the pro ranks, I was, I've been a guy, I was always a guy that had to work really hard. I never had the talent that, I grew up with Stevie Bonzi. I grew up with, oh man, there's so many fast. Johnny Lewis. I grew up with Jared Meese. Just a lot of fast guys from Pennsylvania who had a lot of talent, and I never had that talent. So I was always a notch below those guys, just because when you're younger, most riders, it's all talent. To be honest, these kids, they don't work. No one works super hard as an amateur guy. So it's all based on talent. And then as I've come up through the ranks, I realized, man, if I work really hard, if I study film, if I practice, if I train, I can compete with the guys that are more talented than me, just because I feel like I can outwork them. And that's been my MO, man. I try and outwork, try and outsmart. It's really hard for me. I race with a lot of talented guys, and I just try and utilize what I do well to be successful. So no, it didn't come easy, man. I had to work hard, and Shayna was more talented than I was. I had to work extremely hard to get to where I am.
How does this sit with you've got your sister is the most winning singles rider ever? How does that sit being a sibling? Is that, it doesn't matter if it's brother or sister, but that must be a tough thing sometimes.
It's not that bad, honestly. I'm one of her biggest fans. I mean, it's cool.
Yep.
It's cool as hell that my little sister wins races.
Sure.
I'm her number one fan and supporter. I mean, I got a championship, so that's one thing she doesn't have. So I kind of got that on the shelf.
Yeah.
But Shayna's phenomenal. Everyone sees that when she wins. She beats a lot of good riders. So it's tough a little bit. People give me shit about it, just you get beat by your little sister. I'm like, you got beat by her too. Like Henry Weil was talking shit earlier this year, talking about how I got beat by my little sister. And then she went out and kicked his ass multiple times this year. It's like, what are you talking? Like, you're talking smack, but she goes out and beats you too. So, it's one of them things, man. She's my sister, but when she's on the track, she's just somebody I have to beat. And I don't have to race her right now. She's in the singles class, and I ride production twins. But she's a gamer. She's tough.
It's cool because, like, I listen to your podcast is Tank Slapping Podcast. I listen to that a fair bit. I like how you take the piss out of yourself sometimes about saying, people compare themselves against outside people. You try and compare yourself against your own family. It's always difficult, or something like that along those lines. That's really cool. It's cool to hear,
Yeah, honestly, I compare myself to myself mostly. I just try to be the best version of myself I can be, which is kind of cliche, I guess. But yeah, I mean, when Shayna does well and I do well, it's kind of a bonus. When I have a bad day and she wins, it kind of makes it better. If I suck but she goes out and she pulls off a win, it's good. Like, it's a better day than what it would have been if we both sucked. So typically it's pretty rare for us to do well on the same day. We usually, like, my mom always gives us shit about it. Like, I always do well and Shayna will have a bad day, or Shayna will do well and I'll have a bad day. But Texas last year, 2019, we both won Texas. So that was really cool, man. We both won on the same day. There was a couple of days where, like, I won and she got a close second, or she won and I got a close second. So we've had some podium days together, but yeah, when we both can do well, it's cool as hell. And when one of us does well and the other one doesn't, it's just kind of a bonus, So same deal.
Isn't there some sort of strange stat about that Texas one? Isn't that the only time a family's been on the podium in two classes, or in two classes, or something like? Is that right?
I don't know. I think there was some kind of stat. I don't know that. I mean, we're always kind of breaking the brother and sister. We have a lot of brother sister records, but there hasn't been very many brothers and sisters that have raced. I think we're the only ones. So, no, it's cool, man. We've had a good career, and the Hayden brothers are really successful, obviously, and the Bostroms, and there's a lot of successful racers, siblings, and family members, and typically it's brothers, obviously. I mean, let's be real. I mean, racing is typically dominated by the guys. So to do it with a sibling, but also being my sister is special. Like, I think it's really cool. And for what she's able to accomplish and do every week, it's really cool to be a part of, be her brother, and to see her succeed along with myself.
Why is Pennsylvania such a good breeding ground for flat track?
I get asked that a lot. I think it's not necessarily Pennsylvania. It's not really, like, our tracks aren't anything special. If anything, our tracks kind of suck. We always travel to try and go to better tracks, but it's just a history within, like, Pennsylvania. The roots of flat track go back 50, 60 years. There's always been fast guys, and then they get these kids involved, and then their kids race. Like, my dad raced, and Georgie Price and Kevin Varnes, there's a strong history. And then you have the Jared Meeses, the Johnny Lewis, the Jake Shoemaker is a fast rider. Brandon Price is not far away. There's just so many. I know I forgot a lot, but yeah, I just think it's the competition. I don't necessarily it doesn't really matter where you're at. Cause honestly, Pennsylvania, it's cold as hell in the winter. It rains a lot in the summer. So we can't ride as much as the people can in California, but it's just the competition level, like iron sharpens iron, and we just elevate each other's game quite a bit. And, I just think the competition level in Pennsylvania, it's always been fierce. So it's, you always want to step up your game to win. If you can win in Pennsylvania, you can pretty much win in AFT. I mean, you go to a local Pennsylvania race, Dan Bromley, all these fast guys are showing up, Ron Wood, Ryan Varnes. If you can pull off a win at those races, you're there and you can make it in AFT.
Wow. Tell me about what's the scene like in away from AFT. What is the scene of flat track like over there?
It's good, man. It's crushing it. Yeah, we have really good TV package, and media and publications are covering the sport now more than I've ever seen. There's a lot of good talent. There's a lot of road race guys that are coming over. James Rispoli is one guy that has come over of recent, and he's stepped it up, and he's brought a lot of professionalism to the sport. And Tony Elias did a race a few years back, and I'm trying to think. There's just a lot of people that are getting involved in the sport. You have the super hooligan racers, Tyler Bierman and Robbie Matto is doing a bunch of stuff, and Twitch and Ryan Villapoto, Chad Reed's done some flat track. It's kind of like, I don't know, like Nintendo is popular again. Like stuff that was popular a long time ago, it's sort of making a comeback, and flat track is just like, people are finally seeing how cool the racing is. It's so badass. Like the racing itself, I'm trying not to be biased, but you watch flat track as opposed to road racing and motocross and that stuff. I'm a huge fan because I love racing in general, but you bring an outsider in, you watch the close racing, the drafting, everything involved with flat track, 140 mile an hour sideways, inches from the walls, air fences. It's just really cool, man. And I think more people are seeing it, and they're becoming fans of the racing and the personalities that we have. We have a lot of characters in our sport, and I think that is something the fans can relate to.
Yeah, it's always been, and same here, it's like a grassroots sport, like a real grassroots thing. It's so relatable for people, hey?
Yeah, it really is, and we're real approachable. Like you come to any flat track race, I'll talk to anybody. Like I'm a social guy, man. I'll just chat with anybody. You go to a moto race, you go to a road race event, and people just it seems like they have egos, man. They just play the cool guy card, and they just don't talk to fans. They don't talk to other riders. Everyone's just so intense and serious. And at a flat track race, we just joke around. We have a beer after the race. It's just, the intensity level is there, but right after we're done, we can crack a beer and just, talk about the day and just, chill with the fans, dude. We just have a good time with it.
How good now is the TV package? The TV package is unreal, I feel.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, NBC Sports is a pretty big channel over here. So to be on NBC Sports, I think we're reaching 3.5 to 4 million per year on NBC Sports. So it's awesome. It's good for me when I get sponsors. I can sell that TV package. When I turned pro, we weren't on TV. So it was hard for me to get sponsors when I'm not on TV to sell my sponsors. So it's, I would kind of rely on cycle news, publications, things like that. But it's harder in media these days, like print media. It's harder. It's way hard. As a journalist, it's just print media is falling apart, and it's really sad because there's some really good print magazines out there, and I think they should be utilized a lot more than they are. But as far as the TV package goes, the social media content, podcasts, what you're doing, what people are doing to bring the sport, social media has really helped. TikTok, all that shit, it's really cool, and the fans can just see it consistently. And the TV package is big. It definitely helps me out a lot when I get sponsors.
Even in the off season now, you can actually see something with it with social media. Like in the past, say, even when you first started, it's not that long ago, 2005, but as soon as the season finished, it dries up. Now it's constant. You can see your rider. Yesterday, you were riding in snow. I can see what you're doing, like you're constantly able to see what your athlete's doing. It's a good thing.
It's crazy. It's a bad thing and it's a good thing. Like, can you imagine seeing what like the legends, like the people from back in the day were doing every day? Like, wow. I don't know if I'd want to see what they were doing. I mean, yeah, it just would have been wild. Yeah, it would have been wild to see what some of those guys were doing and sending it on the weekends and stuff like that. But no, it's a really cool thing. It's a cool era for motorcycle fans, and everything's right there. I mean, you can just log on and just get content, and that's really cool, and it's helpful for me. I push my social channels really hard just because I try to push my sponsors, the people that help me out. I just try and get back to them as much as I can. I treat racing like a business, and for the people that help me out, I really try to elevate that a little bit. And I think that's something flat track can do better, the riders can do better. I really feel like the riders in flat track, they need to step up their social game a little bit. Some guys do it really well, and then there's some guys that just don't do it well at all. There's a big gap. And I think if all the riders can kind of push their channels a little bit more, I think the sport would grow even more than what it is. I mean, you look at MotoGP, Supercross, even like GNCC, woods racing, things like that. Pretty much it's consistent. All the top riders are all pushing their channels in flat track. Some guys just don't give a shit. And I think it's good for the fans to be able to see that content.
When did you become such a hustler?
I had to. If I didn't start hustling, I wouldn't be racing right now. I mean, like I've mentioned before, I didn't have the talent. So back in the day, for me, it was I had to do stuff to race. Like I wanted to race because I enjoyed it and it was my passion, it was my dream, and I wasn't very good. So I had to do the marketing, I had to do the journalism just to get opportunities. But I feel like I've transitioned myself from Cory Texter, the marketing guy who also races, to Cory Texter, the racer who also does this. I've worked really hard to transition myself from that role into being a racer. And I still don't get the respect I don't feel as a racer. People still like to kind of, underplay what I'm able to do on the racetrack, and that's fine. But it just motivates me to work harder and just kind of I have a chip on my shoulder. I just feel like there's a lot I can do on a motorcycle that other people can't do. And I just don't get that credit. So I got to work hard to be successful. I have to put in the time, and I don't have the natural talent. Like when the off season started, everybody was giving me shit because I was cycling, riding a lot of moto, and I can't really take time off because I don't have that natural talent to sit on the couch for 2 to 3 weeks or 2 months, show up in Daytona and be successful. I have to stay sharp. And we did the tire test last week in Daytona, and I felt good. Like some guys were rusty, some guys looked a little out of shape, and I've been riding nonstop. I've been training, and I felt really good. So I try to stay sharp, and I always try to get after it as much as I can.
And the marketing side of it, like, did that just fall into like, obviously you've worked hard for it, but you've obviously got a really distinct knowledge of things to do because you're helping out other riders. You write resumes for different riders for sponsorship stuff. Like, how did that all come about as well? Obviously you needed to do it, but how?
I wish I knew, man. I do too much shit. Like I was sitting down today, I just I'm bouncing between my lists, everything I have going on. I'm promoting a race in Florida that's in January, and that's coming up soon. I do the podcast. I have an amateur team. So like, there's so much stuff I'm doing, and I sort of I can't say no. Like if there's an opportunity, like I had Eric Bostrom on my podcast last night, and we were talking about how he had an apparel line, him and Ben, and they stopped doing it because they didn't have time to do it. And like, he's talking about this apparel line. He's got all the apparel still in his warehouse. And I'm thinking like, how the hell can I sell Bostrom's apparel? It's like, I don't have time to do that. What the fuck am I thinking? Like, so like I'm always thinking of ideas and opportunities. Like right now I'm selling Strider bikes. I'm selling balance bikes just because I just thought it was a good opportunity. I'm selling mouth guards. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff I do. If there's an opportunity and I can make a buck, I'll find the time to do it and hustle. I don't know how I fell into some of this stuff, man. I really don't, because I was a C- English. I was awful at English.
Really?
Writing, journalism in high school. I was dog shit. I was awful. And now I've had multiple articles in Cycle World. I've had articles in pretty big publications. I sent it to my English teacher, and she just like was dumbfounded that she can buy my articles at like newsstands. I've just had really good people kind of support me. If someone gives you an opportunity, I just jump on it. I jump on it and I don't half-ass it. I just try to make the most of every opportunity because that's how you get more. So, like I said, I didn't know if I was going to be a racer 8 years ago. So I thought I was going down the path of a journalist, and I was going down the path of a podcast host or whatever I could do because I love the sport. I just wanted to stay involved. And then, a few years back, I just kind of got hungry. Like I was like, dude, I'm going to look back when I'm 50 and wish that I did so much more within my racing career that I did. And I really kind of, racing is my main priority now, where before it was kind of like a subtitle. But racing is what I'm focused on right now. I'm focused on winning races, competing for championships. And it's really cool that I'm back to that, because I never thought I'd get to that. I always thought I'd kind of race as a hobby and finish mid-pack and things like that. And now that I'm able to go out and compete with the top guys, it's a really cool feeling because it's been a lot of hard work to get to that.
And it's such a cool thing to sort of see. I see the hard work on the sidelines. I see the different things you're putting out, and you're a professional athlete that's putting out work. It's just such a different, you don't see that too much,
No, I appreciate that, man. I really do. It's like I said, it hasn't been easy, but I love it. I love working hard. I love everything I do. I love the training. I love, everything about it. And dude, the class that I'm in, the production twins class, it's getting harder every year. And, I won the first three races ever in the series. I won the first three. And everyone's like, all right, well, maybe it's just easy. Maybe he's sandbagging. And then you had Dalton Gautier. You had, Dalton Gautier raced that whole series last year. I think he missed 2 races. So you had the guy that won the singles championship in Dalton. You had Colby Carlisle, who won the singles title the year before. They were in production with me. So it's like, dude, it's not easy. How is it easy?
It's no joke.
It's no joke, man. So it's never been easy. And then this year you had James Rispoli, you had Ryan Varnes, you had Chad Coase, you had Ben Lau. It's not, you look at the lap times for production twins, it's not easy. I just think everyone, iron sharpens iron. And that's the biggest thing with Rispoli this year. He stepped up my game to where I had to just figure some shit out to compete with the guy. And I guess he's moving up to the Super Twins next year, but I'm really thankful for the battle he gave me this year. And, the end of the year, we were really able to kind of elevate what we were doing. And I think it'll be extremely useful for next year. So, I appreciate those battles.
Let's talk about your MT07 or FZ07, whatever it's called in different parts of the world. What's done to it? What's it all about? Tell me about that bike.
Yeah, it's a Yamaha MT07, and our bike it's a great bike. The team I ride for, G&G Racing, LJ and John, they give me phenomenal bikes. They're reliable. They're fast, but our bikes it's basically the kit you buy from Yamaha. You hit up Yamaha in America here in the States, you buy the dirt track kit and you go racing. There's nothing really crazy about our bikes besides the fact that they're assembled really well and they're tuned really well. We have, a couple bikes that are 700 cc's. We have a couple that are made out to 750s. I love the Yamaha MT07. It gets good starts. It's really fast. Sometimes on the slippery racetracks, it's really hard to get that power to the ground with the parallel twin compared to, obviously I raced against the Harley this year, that V twin, and it took a lot of homework on my part to figure out what was going on, because 5 races in a row, Rispoli kicked our asses on that Harley. And I was just like, I became obsessed with figuring out what the hell can we do to make the bike better. I was getting up at 5 a.m. and watching 4 hours of film. My wife is like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to beat that Harley. So there's things that the Yamaha does really well, and there's things that the Harley does really well. But our Yamaha that we run, I think it's the best Yamaha out there. I really do. Essenson has Yamaha team, and they do a really good job with their team. But what my guys are able to do with the budget we have, we go to the races in a van. I mean, it's a very small privateer effort. A father and a son, they're based out of Southern California. They bring the bikes, they assemble them. They do this because they love the sport. They're not making any money doing this. And what they bring, their package they bring to the track every week that I race, it's just a phenomenal package, man. And every race we get better on them. And I'm excited to have another full year, because what we learned, like we had a couple shitty results this year. And what I learned from those bad results, I'm super thankful they happened, because I learned so much. When you win, you don't learn that much. You kind of just, I don't know, you just win, and then you're just stoked. Yeah, you just roll with it. So when you lose, it's so beneficial, because besides the fact that it just sucks to do bad, but then going back and watching the film and looking at the data, I've become obsessed with data. Flat track data was never important. Guys so old school, they race, they come in, they don't even, I'm looking at the GPS, I'm looking at the data, the RPM curves. I'm looking at so much stuff with we use an AIM Sports data logger, and I've become obsessed with the data. I think just trying to, Rispoli, they're always on their computer looking at shit. So I was like, all right, well, let's see what this data is about, man. So I become obsessed with the data. And the last 6 races of the year, we got second or first. We didn't do any worse than second place. And we won, I think we won 3 out of 4 or some, I don't know. We got a lot better just studying the data, bringing new technology into a sport that's been around forever. And just utilizing that technology with this, with the MT-07 has been really, really helpful.
So what sort of data can you get? Like what sensors are currently on your bike? Do you have like suspension sensors or anything like that for travel?
Dude, the flat track stuff is basic. Like last year, well, in the production twins class, you can't use you can't use traction control TC. You can't. Well, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do that. So, fly by wire. You can't do any of that fancy MotoGP shit. But for me, I like looking at the RPMs, like where I'm hitting the rev limiter. Like flat track, it's a circle, but sometimes the back straightaway is longer than the front straightaway. So I like to see where I'm hitting. We have a sweet spot for the RPM range where there's traction. I like to see where I'm hitting it. I zoom in on the track, like the GPS, and I like to see where I'm gaining time, like where my best lap was and where I was on the racetrack. I look at it's hard to everything I can on that data I'm looking at, even stuff that doesn't matter, where I'm getting on the throttle, where I'm shutting it off, if I'm chopping it, because there's some times where I'll go into the corner, I'll chop it, and then I'll realize, oh shit, I chopped it too quick, and I'll get back on it. So the smoothness of the throttle, all that stuff. I've learned to utilize that data, and I've never been a setup guy. I've always been like, just go out and race. And I've taken a lot of pride in my ability to set up a bike now. And I did that tire test last week on a Suzuki 450, and I haven't ridden the 450 all year. And we were the fastest guy out there on the timesheets against the guy that won the championship, Dallas Daniels, Shayna, Mikey Rush, Cody Kopp, and we were the fastest 450. And I really think like my ability to help set the bike up was a big reason for that. So I don't know. I think it's cool, man. I've taken a lot of pride in my setup ability over the past year. So
I personally, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that. I love that stuff. I love telemetry. I love data. Just being able to break things down is super interesting.
It is. It's really cool. It's been a learning experience for me, and it's cool, man. It's a new technology to the sport that you either pick up on it, you use it to your advantage, or just be left behind. I don't know. It's just one of them things. So it's been good.
Tell me about the tire test. So you were on a RMZ 450?
Yeah, I was. So Wally Brown Racing. Wally's a good friend of mine. He actually he works for Joe Gibbs Racing, the big NASCAR team over here in the States. So he has a Suzuki team, and I've been friends with him, and I was looking to do the tire test. I didn't really have a bike together. My team, they're based out of California. It's quite a hike from Florida. So I'm mentoring. I'm a mentor to, I don't know what the right word for that, but I'm a mentor for the rider that is racing next year on that bike. I can't really say any names right now, but between my relationship with their new rider and my relationship with Wally, I decided to go down and do that tire test. And we're just testing a new compound. We had a pretty hard mile tire last year. Our soft tire was pretty good, but our hard tire was a little bit too hard. So they're trying to find a happy medium. And yeah, man, it was good. We got some really good data on tires. I think the tires are going to be way better for next year. I think lap times will drop. I think the
Yeah.
racing will be better. And as far as where we were at, like I felt really good on that 450. Like I haven't ridden the 450 all year, and I was the fastest guy on the first day. Unfortunately, we had a mechanical. I broke a cam chain on the bike. I don't know what happened. It's just some stupid mechanical. So I didn't get to ride the second day, but yeah, it was cool, man. I had a brief singles career in 2018 where I rode the singles class, and I had a couple top five finishes, but I sort of got pushed around quite a bit in that class, and I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder going into the tire test. I was determined. I mean, I was going there to test tires, and we're not racing or anything, but I wanted to prove a little bit that I can still ride a single. And if that opportunity ever comes, I would just wanted to kind of put my name out there just a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
It's still there. Hey, that with that Suzuki, like Joe Gibbs Racing was the factory Suzuki team for Supercross and motocross, obviously. Is this spec of the bike much like that, or is there anything taken away from that? Do you know?
I don't have a great answer for that. I know obviously a lot of those parts and development and things they've come from the motocross team and supercross team,
Yeah.
but obviously the motocross setup is quite a bit different than the flat track, like the engine package. Flat track, we're trying to get speed, we're trying to get horsepower. Supercross, it's more bottom end. You're trying to get off the corners. You're trying to torque and things like that. So, and it's no secret the Suzuki is probably the bastard child of the 450s, right? I mean, you have to kick it still. So, yeah. So it was crazy how fast they've made that bike, and it's just it says a lot about Wally and his team, what they were able to do with that Suzuki. To go out there and Volusia's a big track. It's a big half mile. It's fast. I mean, we're going 100 mile an hour on the straightaways, and it was a good bike, man. I had a lot of fun riding it. So it was. I don't want to trade in the production twins class. I want to keep racing the twin. I like the horsepower, but it was cool. It was, I ride a lot of motocross and things like that. So to jump on the 450, it was cool, man. It was cool to see where I was at in that class a little bit. So I tried to get the bike blew up. I tried to find an Indian to ride or a twin to ride the next day. I wanted to see where I kind of stacked up in the super twins class, because my goal is to get back in that class. But it's got to be the right opportunity, and it's got to be the right opportunity for me to do. And I wanted to see if anybody had a spare Indian. Like I was going to go ask Breyer if he had a spare bike I could ride. But yeah, it just didn't happen. So we'll never know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you made the jump into super twins on a bike, that you need to be on a good package, don't you? You can't just jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that the Indian is the dominant bike in the super twins class, and that's cool, man. The Indian, those guys did their job way better than they probably thought, and definitely better than the series thought. I mean, you have to be on an Indian pretty much to be a contender consistently. For me, I was listening to the Rispoli show, and I've talked to James a little bit, and he's never ridden super twins. For me, I jumped. Everyone gives me shit about jumping back in classes. I run production now, and I ran singles. I was the first guy to kind of jump back to the singles. Notable guy, Henry Wiles has done it. Mikey Rush, Chad Coast, they've done it after me. But I got a lot of shit for doing that because I was the first guy to do it. But what people forget is I turned pro. I turned expert. It was different. The names were different back then. But I turned expert in 07. I turned GNC in 08. Like, I moved through the ranks quick. I only spent 1 year. 2 years amateur, 1 year pro sport, 1 year expert GNC. So when I turned pro, I moved up right away. Like, I wanted to race the best guys because I had a good program. I had good bikes. I had good opportunities. But the way the sport is restructured now, I feel like all three classes, the exposure opportunities and the opportunities you can get within the industry and with sponsors and things like that, it's all equal. I mean, the Super Twins is the premier class, and those guys down from top to bottom, they're the best riders. That class is the best class. Like the guys that finished 10th in Super Twins, they're way faster than the guys that finished 10th in the production twins or 10th in the singles. But the top guys in each class, like the top guys in singles, the top guys in production, the top 3 to 4 guys in all those classes, I don't think we can beat Meese or Breyer, but I think we could contend for podiums and maybe on our good days win. I'm really excited to see what Rispoli can do in Super Twins. I'm excited to see where some of these singles guys moving up can do in production. I really want to see where everybody stacks up, because then I kind of know where I stack up a little bit. So, my goal is always been to be a Super Twins rider and win a Super Twins national. But right now, the production class is just the best suited class for me.
Makes sense. And the package you're on, that bike obviously suits you really well, hey?
Yeah, it's competitive, and that production class is cool because all the bikes are essentially equal and they're low cost. You know, the Indian's a $50,000 bike, just stock. Like it's a $50,000 bike. You know, just the way it sits. Whereas you can probably build my Yamaha for 20 grand. It's half the price. So it just takes a lot less to make a production bike competitive. You can build a production bike in your garage and go out and win races. You can't necessarily do that with the Super Twins anymore.
Wow. So 50 grand for the FTR 750 stock.
Yeah, dude. It's a big check. It's not a cheap deal. Flat track's expensive, man. And to do it at this level, we've the TV package and everything. We've elevated that, but it's a lot more money to play ball these days. And so there's been so many good riders over the past 5 years that just lost motivation. And people like to bitch about the buy-in. They like to they complain about the rules. And the people that complain, they just don't want it bad enough. Like for me, if it's whatever it is, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. If you want it bad enough, like you'll make the sacrifices, you'll make the calls. I spend 6 hours a day during sponsorship season to find budget to go racing. So the guys that they're on the sidelines and they're complaining, making excuses. They just don't have the mindset that they need to be out there. And the guys that are out there are guys that they want to race. They'll do whatever it takes to be out there and race.
You never, like in your own show, you never hold back your own opinions. You don't say anything. You don't hold anything back. Is the current structure of the sport the best it's been? My side, yes. What do you think?
That's tough, man. I've seen a lot of different stuff in flat track. I mean, I like the structure. I think it's cool. I think the 3 classes are cool. I don't like the buy-in. I like the professionalism associated with what we have now, like the haulers, the collared shirts. I think pro racing should look like pro racing. We shouldn't have people running around without shirts on. We shouldn't have hillbillies. And, we got to look professional because we're trying to bring in, because the riders they complain about, we have to look professional, but then they complain we don't have any sponsors. We're not getting paid. It's like the two go hand in hand. It's like you look professional, you might pull in a Coca-Cola or you might pull in, these big sponsors. Right now, what the package used to look like, no big real sponsors are stepping up to the plate if we're all running around and it's just disorganized and it's not a appealing package. But I think where we're at now, it looks good to sponsors and people are getting involved and the class structure is good. I wish we had some more riders. I think the talent level we have is as good as it's always been. And we've had guys on our podcast. We've had Larry Pegram. We've had Steve Moorhead, Jay Springsteen, legends from the late 80s, early 90s, where everybody talks about how good the talent level was. And Steve and Larry, they're like, dude, the guys now are just as good or better, and they're in shape, and they're athletes, but the depth is not there. Like back in the day, there was 100 guys at a national, and now we have 25 guys and like 10 really good guys. So it's just the depth isn't there. I wish we had more riders. I wish we could find a way to kind of transition the amateurs through the pro ranks and through the levels. And that's kind of what I'm doing now with my amateur team. I'm trying to teach these kids. I have a couple kids that are 10, 11 years old. I have a couple teenagers. I'm trying to prep them, give them a level of professionalism for when they turn pro, they're ready. They're not there just to be involved. They're there to kind of set the bar and be professionals. And, I try and transition them. I try and help them find a ride at the pro level, get them sponsorship deals that they can communicate with and grow a relationship and things like that. So I think just I wish more pro riders did it, man. I wish guys would take kids under their wing and mentor them and get them ready for that next level, because it just everyone's kind of, they're just like all in them for themselves, and it just collectively doing this stuff, it helps the sport as a whole. So
100%. And it's an individual team sport, isn't it? People have got teams there, but it's such an individual sport as well.
Yeah, I agree. I've said that on, like, for the social media thing, when like if Red Bull or somebody gets on, if I, let's say I write to an energy drink sponsor, Monster Energy, and they look at my social channels, and they're pretty good. But then they look at the guys I'm competing with just to see what the sport's like as a whole. They're looking at my competitors, and they only have 2,000 or 3,000 followers. They don't post but once a month. And just collectively, if all the riders are doing their job and posting and doing, just taking it serious, man, just, it's my livelihood. So I take it, I'm a little bit intense compared to my other guys. They're more lighthearted with it, but I just have a lot of passion for it. And I just, it's my livelihood. So collectively, when all the riders do their job and just help market the sport, it just helps us all. It helps us all make more money. It's just like the guys act like they don't care, but then they're bitching they don't make any money. It's like, dude, you don't make any money, then you got to put in the work. You got to post on social media instead of riding your Grom or drinking beer on the weekends or whatever, playing golf. Like, post something. Like, reach out to sponsors. Like, just act like you're a professional athlete. Yeah, I mean, even like Jared Meese, like, I've talked to him before about speaking his opinion and stuff like that. He's like, no one cares what I have to say, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, it's just, that's a bad attitude to have. Like, people care. Like, it's just one of them things. I just wish people would kind of speak their mind a bit more and just market the sport better.
Yeah, 100%. Just put it out there. This is what it is. Makes sense. Your podcast, what made you start that?
I actually had a podcast when we go back to what I was saying, I was trying to find things to just stay involved in the sport. I did a podcast back in 2000 and I don't even know what it was, 15. I did it with Scotty Dubler. So he has a podcast now, and we actually had one together. It was called Flat Track Weekly Radio. And then I took some time off, tried to get back to where I wanted to be as a racer. And then I think it was December of last year, Jake Johnson hit me up, and he was like, hey man, I'd like to start a podcast. What do you think? And I was like, dude, I've kind of been thinking about getting back in the podcast game too. And the platforms for podcasts now, they're so much better than they were 4 or 5 years ago. Chris Carter, the guy that produces our show, he's a phenomenal producer. And I had a conversation with him, and I'm like, man, I'd like to do this, but I'm still racing. I got to focus on racing and things like that. Is there any way you can get involved and help make this happen? He's like, absolutely. He's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, dude, I was like, there's so many just like, what's the word? Politically correct podcasts out there where guys just say the same shit. They just talk about, oh, it was a good race. How did you get started in racing? It's just boring stuff. So I'm like, dude, if I do this, I want to uncensor it. I want to get like the legends of the sport on the show, talk about hanging with chicks, getting drunk, just the party days, the rivals, who they hated. I wanted to spice it up a lot. And Carter's like, initially he was like, you won't talk about that stuff. I'm like, the fuck I won't. I was like, I'm in my Kobe era. I was like, I'll talk about it. So yeah, we just kind of started rolling with it. Initially, we drank a lot. Like, we would drink 4 or 5 beers, throw them down, and just call these guys. And it got to the point where I barely remembered what we were talking about. So I had to simmer it down a little. We kicked it back a notch or two on the beers. Sometimes I'll have a coffee. And it started off as a Flat Track podcast. And then we had like Josh Hayes on. We had, oh man, I forget. We started dipping into the road racing side of it. Ben Bostrom, Larry Pegram. And then we got Wayne Rainey on. I was like, dude, this is amazing. Like, Wayne Rainey, this is badass. And Wayne is the coolest guy ever, by the way. That we talk like once a week now. He's like my boy. Like, Wayne's really cool. And then I was like, well, we had Wayne Rainey on. Maybe Schwanz will come on. So we called Kevin Schwanz. And he's like, yeah, man, I'll come on. I was like, fucking right, dude. So we had Kevin Schwanz on. And then like Eric Bostrom, we had just had Eric Bostrom on. We have a couple pretty good moto guys that want to come on. So it's like, I think where like what we do with it, we kind of just pay tribute to the guys that have retired. You don't hear from anymore, and we bring out a side of them that you don't really hear. You've never heard before. You know, you've heard about their wins and just the boring stuff. Like we try to bring up the childhood rivalries, what their dads did at the track, like just any drama we can get. And I've had quite a few phone calls and people bitching and, you know, that they're not going to listen because we curse too much, or, you know, one of our guys we bring in, Noah Chambers, he talks about going to the club and like just it's uncensored and people love it. It's a niche. But we have so much fun doing it. I love talking to the guys because I'm a racing kid, man. Those guys are my heroes. And it's just cool when they come on and they like Jay Springsteen. He was like, yeah, you looked really good at Daytona and Moorhead before he got off. He's like, dude, you're the best whole shot artist I've ever seen. I was like, what? I was like, dude, thanks, Steve. Like, just my heroes complimenting me and just chatting with them like we're friends. It's been really fun and we really enjoy it. It's a good time.
Man, like when I seen that you got Wayne Rainey and Kevin Schwanz, like in a sequence sort of thing, basically. It was like back to back there every few weeks. I was like, man, that must be a bit of a pinch yourself type thing as well. Yeah,
no, it really is. I mean, it's hard for me to get starstruck just because I race too. And I don't know. I think that's what's cool about our podcast. We don't fanboy too hard. I mean, Sammy does a little bit, my co-host. He's a bigger nerd than me, so he gets all giddy and stuff, but I think we just like it's campfire drinking a beer, and I think the guys appreciate that. I think Wayne and Kevin and Scott Parker and Springsteen and Larry Pegram and we've had Baker on, Jared Meese, Jeffrey Carver, Breyer, Shayna. We've had just a lot of guys, and it's just campfire bullshit racing, talking. You know, it's just it's cool, man. And the guys we have on our list that we want to have on and we've had conversations with, it's going to get better. Like we just have some really good guests in the queue to come on, and we'll just keep it rolling. It's something. It's like I said, it takes me away from the intense level of the training and the racing and the riding. I get to just come on, have a beer, talk racing with my heroes. It's really cool.
And the fanboy part and stuff, like you're saying, like you take it back to everything. People are just people, aren't they?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's like the only rider that I'd have a slight fanboy over, because just like the aurora of and the person like is Vale. Like Valentino, man, just having him on would be crazy. That's like Dave Despain. We've had Dave Despain on, and that was big for us. Like he's legendary announcer. Like we wanted Despain on. We had him on. I was a little nervous for that. I was a little nervous for Rainey, which kind of it got me ready for Schwanz. Schwanz was really good. That guy's funny as hell. But if I could have Rossi on, man, that'd be awesome. Like Marquez, I wouldn't be as starstruck, but just Rossi. He's a little bit older. Or McGrath. Like if I could have McGrath on, or I'm trying to think. Yeah, McGrath or Rossi would be the two that I would be like, all right, we gotta kill this one. So
reality check. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. We have a lot of fun with it. Just something we do every week, and it's been good so far.
Tell me about a good day in racing for yourself. What's been a good day? Real good day.
Man, racing's so cutthroat. Like you go out, you win, you're happy about it for a few hours, you go to bed. At least for me, like I'm right back to work. And I know it's robotic of me to say that, but I have to. Yeah, it's such a it's so cutthroat. Like you're only as good as your last race. So I mean, you win, that's the goal. You go out and you win, but then you prepare for the next race, or you prepare for the next season. I mean, when I won a championship a week later, I was already talking about next year. My team, they were like, hey, relax. You just enjoy the championship. I'm like, I want to win another one. Like, A good day for me, yeah, it's just for now. I just want to win. I want to win races. So, the end of the year there was really good for us. We won Atlanta, we won Charlotte, we won Daytona. We finished the year with a really dominating win at Daytona, and that was great. We lost the title. That was heartbreaking. It kind of he dominated so early that I wouldn't say I always thought I had a shot to come back and make it close. I didn't know how close we could make it at the end there. And then we had a rain out, and I think we had a cancellation that kind of just took the win from our sails. Like I thought we had a really good shot until that happened. So for me, it was just try and win races, improve myself. And I was just really happy with where my riding was at the end of the year. I think that was the best version of Cory Texter that I've ever brought to the racetrack. My starts were good. I was qualifying good. I was aggressive. So yeah, a good day for me is just being better than where I was the day before. This year was cool. We had a lot of double headers. If I did bad the first day, pretty much every race, I always improved on day two. And even when we're lined up on the third row or we've had a bad qualifying effort, I still feel like I can win. So I think the confidence level, just where I'm at mentally as a racer, I wasn't like that as a rookie. I was always in my own head, freaking out. I talk myself out of what I'm even doing there. And
Wow.
mentally where I'm at, I take a lot of pride in because that's been hard too, is to get to that confidence level to know I belong out there and I can compete and I can win against all those guys.
How did you change that?
How did I change? Man, I don't know, because people ask me that a lot. Parents, they ask me, how do I get my kid more motivated? How do I get my kid more determined? How do I get my kid more, better in school? Because I was a bad student. I was a C- student in high school, and then I went to college, and I was a straight A student. I was a 4.0 college student. So I don't know how I got the motivation. I just started getting it with everything I did. I was always just kind of like an average guy. I just didn't care to be great. I was competitive, but I didn't need to be great. I just was kind of I would like to have fun. And then I just got motivated. Losing my dad was really motivating for me. I lost my dad at age 22. It's been 10 years ago. So to see what his work ethics and what he did, and how he never gave up. He wasn't doing good health wise, and he would still come to work every day. He would still take us racing. He was still, he ended up being in like a wheelchair because he had heart and lung failures, and he was really doing bad. And he'd still come to work every day, 7 a.m, work till 7 to 9 p.m. He was just a hustler, and I just think seeing him do that and then losing him, it was like. And then people kind of doubted me, and I never got the respect from my family, quote unquote family. They were supposed to be family. I just kind of got a chip on my shoulder, and I just got determined. And now it's everything I do. It's either do it right or don't do it. I hate lazy efforts. I hate people that half-ass stuff. Even with riders, my peers, like the guys that are successful that kind of slide by, they rely on talent. I don't have respect for those guys. And that's why it wasn't quite as hard this year for me to lose the title to the guy I lost it to, because he's a hard worker too. Guys that work hard, I have a lot of respect for. Dallas Daniels won the 450 title. He's a hard worker. Breyer, hard worker. Jared Meese, hard worker. Pretty much it comes down to guys that are working hard. I have a lot of respect for because I have to work hard. And I don't know how I changed, but here we are. I just something I enjoy it. I enjoy working hard. So
Something you've touched on a few times, but what does it take for Cory Texter to get respected as those in the sport?
Shit, man, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Even like that tire test last week, AFT put out a press release. They were talking about Dallas and Mikey and Shayna. The guy that fast timed the first day, every time I hit the track, I fast timed almost, and there was nothing in there about me. And, you had a 33-year-old guy that doesn't race singles on a Suzuki, and, there was nothing in there. So, I don't know. I don't really care. I don't care. I
Mm.
don't really care about the respect. LeBron James, basketball player over here, and he won a title this year. And I've always been a big LeBron fan. And he said when he won his title, he said talking about respect, and he finished his interview with "I want my damn respect too." And I'm like, dude, why do you care about if people respect you or if people, I'm going to throw Dalton Gote under the bus a little bit. When he won his championship, he said, he was saying, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And I was like, man, why don't you just prove yourself right? Why do
To
you care
yourself,
about
yeah.
proving anybody wrong? Like for me, it's always been about proving it to myself that I can do it. Not looking back when I'm 50 and having regrets that I didn't bring the best version of myself. So the respect thing, it's whatever. I'll get it or I won't get it. I used to worry about that a lot, and I used to let it keep me up at night. But I'm just going to bring the best version of myself everywhere I can, on the track, off the track. If people like it, cool. A lot of people don't. It's whatever. I'm just going to be me and be happy at the end of the day, and just try to keep improving, keep winning race as long as I can. Hopefully, get back to that Super Twins level at some point and reach my goal, which has always been to win a Super Twins race. Obviously everybody wants to win a championship, but my goals have always been realistic. And, I think I have a good shot. I could have a good shot to win some races in that class. And that's kind of where I'd like to be at some point.
Who's been the worst rival? You're an elder statesman now at 33. You would have had some rivals along the way. Who's been the hardest? Who's been the worst?
Oh man. Well, as an amateur, my rival growing up was always Brandon Robinson. I mean, we were friends, but he was always the guy, like always the thorn in my side. I always had to beat Brandon Robinson. We lived a half hour from each other. He dated my sister for 7 years. It was like Brandon really elevated my game as an amateur rider. And
Mm-hmm.
then my biggest rival when I turned pro was myself. Like I couldn't get out of my own head. It was just everybody was my rival. I didn't have any big rivals. Matt Weidman, he was a rider from New York, really good rider. I guess maybe I rivaled him a little bit. And then my first year in production twins last year, Ryan Varnes was a top competitor. Rispoli, Dalton, Gautier. But the guy who I didn't like racing with and I didn't have a lot of respect for was Colby Carlisle. Just his antics and the stuff he would do, just his games he would play. I just thought they were immature, and he tried to get under my skin, but it wasn't really getting under my skin. It was more so like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I respect him as a rider. I think he rides hard and he's a good rider, but and we're cool. Like I don't hate the guy. I just somebody that I didn't have as much respect for as I have for Rispoli or Dalton or Ryan Varnes. Colby is kind of the guy who just would kind of irritate me a little bit. We got in a few arguments. He doesn't want any problem off the track. I've tried to assess that, and that wasn't on the table. But yeah, so he kept doing bullshit on the track. Like one of the things he did at the last race of the year in 2019, one of the riders in our practice put it through the hay bales. I think it was Nick McFadden, a road race kid, and he was pretty hurt. And we're coming around for the red flag. He goes by me on the outside. He like flicks the bike sideways. He's like revving it and looking over at me, like trying. I'm like, bro, there's a guy that's just crashed into the hay bales, and you're being a peckerhead doing stupid shit. It's like, yeah. So just those antics. And I think he's grown up a little bit, but yeah, where he was last year was frustrating a little bit.
Yep.
Is that
Yeah.
the answer?
That
Unfiltered
that's
answer.
good. That's good. What's one of your favorite tracks? What is somewhere that you go to that you just go, I could ride here every weekend? What do you like?
Oh man. I'm an indoor guy. I like the little concrete indoors. The
Really?
bang, the slam into each other, short track indoors. I've won a lot of concrete indoors. I'm sort of known as the indoor guy here in America. I've had a lot of good races on those concrete indoors, but I think AFT wise, I don't know. I like Williams Grove. I've gotten 3 podiums there, no wins. I like anything that's hooked up and tacky. I liked Texas Motor Speedway. I liked Volusia.
Yep.
Daytona short track, man. I really enjoyed that this year. That was a lot of fun. I don't have a set track that I love. Yeah, I really don't, because my mindset is I gotta try and like all of them. There's none that I'm not a big Peoria fan, Peoria TT. And I heard we're racing there. The Production Twins, they're racing there this year. So I got to put on my big boy pants and make some shit happen. But there's some racetracks I don't love, but my mindset has changed so much in the last 2 years, where I used to worry about racetrack. Even this year, Indy Mile this year, the practice day, I went out and I was fastest guy by a lot. I was smoking them. And then the track, dirt track's crazy because, in road racing, it's just pavement. It's there. It doesn't change. In flat track, the track can change 120% from one night to the next. I mean, it could be wetter, drier, hooked up, slick, rough. You can get holes this big in a matter of a couple hours. So that's one thing I've had to, I work with Chris Carr. He's kind of like my rider coach and a good friend. And he's like, dude, don't worry about what the track's going to do. Just know that you have to adapt and win. And that's kind of, I've had to just not worry about that stuff. Just go out and try and win what's there. I just, not worry about it.
Yeah, you can't change it, can you? Like, really, it's out of your hands. You just got to adapt to it.
Yeah, I would always kind of wish it would be a certain way and hope it would be this way, like a Cory Texter racetrack. And then when it wasn't what I anticipated it to be, I would suck. Like I would do way worse. And then when I changed, like Charlotte this year, I didn't like Charlotte at all. I hated it. It was rough, tacky. It wasn't a track that I normally would do well at, but my mindset was so different than what it was earlier in the season. If it was earlier, in the year, I probably would have got 5th or 6th at Charlotte. And I ended up winning by a lot. Like I didn't care. I had a job to do. I got to go out and race. So try not to worry about it like I used to.
And that goes back to, headspace. Like what you're saying, you've changed so much. Your head's obviously in a better place where you're not fighting it against yourself now.
That's the biggest thing, man. It's racing. This is all 90% mindset. I mean, there's a lot of really good racers, there's a lot of really good riders that don't make good racers because they can't figure it out. They can't figure out the idea behind racing. I mean, if you break down a race, it's so simple. I mean, you get a good start and you beat the other guys to the checkered flag. Guys that, like, if you overcomplicate what you're doing, it just messes you all up. And for me, I've been able to really simplify what we do. It's like qualify good, get a good start, be smooth. You win the race. Yep. I mean, you don't always have to have that raw speed to win. There's a lot of really, really, really good riders that haven't won shit because they're not good racers. And that's something I've learned over time. It's like, I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to get a good start and be smooth. Some days it pays off, some days it doesn't. But you don't have to have the raw speed every week to get the job done. Makes
sense. What's the strangest thing you've seen in Daytona at Bike Week?
You never been, huh? You never been over here?
No. I've been to the States a lot, but never Daytona.
Oh, Daytona Bike Week is like, dude, it's like, and I've been going down to Daytona since I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in a Harley shop, so I've seen some shit. I mean, the strangest thing, I don't have a strangest thing, but I have a pretty good story. Main Street in Daytona is where like all the biker bars are and girls in bikinis and, beer and it just gets nasty. It's just, it's just a party scene. And Luke Baird he's an amateur. He was an amateur racer from Kentucky, hung out a lot with the Gillum brothers, who they're cousins with Nicky Hayden and the Hayden brothers. And so he's an Owensboro boy, Luke Baird. And he was probably, I want to say he was 14. And we were at a bar, and one of the bar girls, she was out trying to get people into their bar, and we're just a bunch of kids running around. And Luke talked her into giving him a kiss on the cheek. He's like, hey, will you give me a kiss on the cheek? And she, we want to put it on, I forget what it was, take a picture. She's like, all right, cool. So she goes to give him a kiss on the cheek, and at the last second, he turns and kisses her on the lips, and
Oh, no.
like it was not, she was not pumped, and the bouncer like started to like pushing him. I'm like, dude, he's 14. Like, yeah, it was like 3 a.m. too. We're like 14. I'm like 17. We're like running around Daytona. I have so many amazing memories from Daytona. I could go on forever. Daytona, Sturgis Bike Week, just all those bike weeks, just running around, with Chad Coase and Ryan Wells and just the boys that get after it, Noah Chambers. We just have so much fun. And now I'm a dad. I'm 33. So life is so different now than it used to be. And I still get after it. I still have fun, but I just don't, I'm not as reckless as I used to be, so it's just been a change of scene for me. Instead of carrying beers or whatever, I have a Strider bike and, whatever for my little man, a diaper bag. It's just different than it used to be. And I love it. I love the transition. I love being a dad. And it's something that I enjoy every minute of every day, but it's just life is so different than it used to be for me. Everyone's like, let's party. I'm like, I can't, man. We're in the basement riding with crews. So it's pretty cool to think about.
That's a fair flip, isn't it, from going to Daytona Bike Week to fatherhood? That's a big change.
Dude, it happened quick too. It was like, I don't know, being a father, everyone's like, how do you prepare for it? I'm like, you really don't. You just wing it. Like, I wasn't necessarily ready to be a dad, but I knew I wanted to be a dad eventually, and I was getting older. So I just sent it. And there he is. I have a son, and you just wing it. And now my relationship with Cruz, he's only 3, but we have such a good relationship where he's riding an electric bike. Like, we ride dirt bikes together. We ride bikes together. He just turned 3. What we can do together, and he's doing burnouts. We're talking about like lines. Like, he's so smart, and just to be able to have like just a new friend is just so cool. And it's just been a really cool thing for me. And I could go on forever about being a dad. It's truly amazing.
That's cool. Okay, it's funny, like the age that you're saying Cruz is to what you're saying about your mindset as well with the sport. You're sort of like fair parallel there, isn't there?
Yeah, I guess you could compare that. I guess it goes with one another. I would have liked to have kids when I was younger, like, 22, 23, but I was a train wreck when I was that old. There's no way I could have had a kid at that point. And I think racers typically, we all have kids a little bit later, like into our 30s, because we just can't put the partying behind us. We can't put the long nights. We're a little selfish. Racers are selfish. They don't want to take time away from what they're doing. So I would have liked to have had one sooner, but I don't know how the hell he would have turned out if that was the case, because I was not prepared at 22, 23.
Yeah, it's a big change. Who does your helmets for you?
I'm a Bell. I wear Bell helmets, and then the paint job I had this year was a guy named Tagger. He does a lot of I think he does. I don't know what the hell he paints. He does like some energy drink stuff and things like that. Tagger, yeah. But I wear Bells.
He does Tomax helmet. I'm pretty sure Tagger does.
He does a lot of moto guys. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. But yeah, I wear Bell helmets. I wore another brand for 15 years of my career, and then I got hooked up with Bell, and it's been an amazing relationship. I love being a Bell guy, and yeah, Chris from Bell. Chris Killen, he's one of my boys, and pretty stoked to be a Bell rider.
Because your helmets this year just look mint, like just
dude.
So crafty,
Yeah, hold on, I got it. No, I don't have it in here. Damn, I thought I had it in here. Yeah, it's that helmet's dope. I love that. When he painted it, because you never like helmet painters, they don't send like a sketch or anything; they just do it. And I sent him. I wear Alpine Star leathers, and I sent him my leathers. And I was like, I don't know, man. Just like, I kind of gave him free range. I was like, I don't know, make it cool. Put like a 1 on the side. And I picked it up. I was like, all right, I see you. Like, that looks good. So it was cool.
No, it looks mint. Like, just looking at the gear, it's like, it's just I don't know. It just goes back to marketing, back to the whole funnel. Everything looks good, well presented and everything. So
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I tell kids a lot, man. I'm like, you got to look good. You got to present yourself well. You got to have some swag, man. You got to, I don't know, like, yeah, it all goes hand in hand, man. I tell Max Whale is an Aussie boy, and I tell him a lot, man. I try and help him out with some of his shit, and I'm like, yeah, man, you got to look good. You got to do this. You got to do that, and so yeah, I've been kind of taking him under my wing a little bit and trying to help him out as much as I can.
he's such a good young guy.
Yeah, he's all right.
He's all right. You can't talk to him about too much. Hey, tell me about Winter Throwdown. What is it? What's the go? When is it? What's the event? Everything.
Yeah, it's a race I do in Florida every year. This is the third event I've done. It's January 9th, and it's a pretty fast short track. It's in near Jacksonville, Florida. Some of the guys that show up, we got Jared Meese, we got Rispoli, Sammy Halbert, Brandon Robinson, Dallas Daniels, Morgan Mitchell, Ben Lau, Brandon Price, Dalton Gauthier, everybody. I hope Breyer. I think Breyer might come. I'm not positive. Larry Pegram talked to me about it. Dude, everyone's asked me about it. It's so I get a lot of support from my peers, and that's amazing. It says a lot about my relationship with the guys I race with and the respect level that they come out and support my event. We have a really big, two big Dash for Cash events, amateur and pro. Dude, it's just a really fun event. It's a huge one-off event here in the States. I think it's the biggest single-day flat track event. I don't know about the world, but definitely in the States. I mean, the entries we have 250 entries, I think, we're anticipating for this year. And we only have 15 classes, so every class is stacked. Yeah, it's something I take a lot of pride in. As soon as the season's over, I work on that event 4 to 5 hours more longer than that. Every day I'm constantly working to grow that event. We do Sammy Sabedra, my co-host on the podcast, and Chris Carter, my producer. They're my social media team. They're running around doing pit walks, funny interviews. We're doing a motorcycle limbo. We're going to slide under a bar and do limbo. I'm hoping to win that shit too. I can't race my event because I just have so much going on, which sucks because I want to line up with the boys, and get after it. But I can't race it, but I'm doing the limbo. There's some shit talking going on between some of the guys, and I'm going to try and at least win the limbo. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a really cool event. I'd love to do more races, promote more races in the future. I kind of see what other races do that I don't like, and I'm like, all right, I don't want to do this at my race. So my philosophy with my event is don't promote a race like you're doing these guys a favor by promoting the race. Promote it as if like you're thankful they're coming and supporting you. So I'm just really happy all weekend long. Like I'm just super stoked everybody's there to support me. Everybody has fun. Last year Dalton Gauthier and Justin Jones, they had quite a scuffle in the pits. A little bit of drama, so that's always good. They can't fight or I have to kick them out, but they can yell at each other as much as they want. So that was kind of entertaining. It's called the Winter Throwdown, so it's a good event, man. And we'll have a lot of stuff on social media that people can tune in. Free coverage all weekend long on my Cory Texter Racing Facebook page, and then the Winter Throwdown. We have a couple pages too, so a lot of cool content on that race. So there'll be some fireworks. You put that many boys out there and that much money up for grabs, there's going to be some sort of action. So it should be good.
For sure. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So you will be doing like a stream of it as well, yeah?
I don't know if we're going to stream at least like the pro classes. We're going to do pit walks. I don't know if we can. The internet at that race, it's in like hillbilly Florida. Like it is Gator Pit, Florida. I mean, it's the internet is pretty shitty, but we're going to do the best we can. And the guys I have on my social media team that I've mentioned, and then, myself, we're going to hammer the content. So it's going to be good.
Very, very cool. I can't wait to see that. And I think, didn't Chris work for NBC or something like that? One of the networks, didn't he?
He's done a lot of stuff. He's done stuff with NASCAR. He's done stuff with American Flat Track. He does stuff with Pro Motocross. Chris Carter is amazing, man. That's my Swiss Army knife. That guy can do so much stuff. Video, he can do social, he can do sorry, I'm tweaking out here. He can do podcast stuff. The guy's phenomenal. He can do everything.
Very cool. Well, mate, I want to leave you to your, what day is it over there? It's Wednesday night, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, we've got like a foot of snow today, so I don't have shit going on. It was fun chatting, man. I love talking about racing and meeting new people, and the Aussie fans, man, they're so cool. I have so many people over there that reach out to me, and I'm a big dude. I love it. I love the Aussie atmosphere. I love Troy. Troy came over and did some flat track stuff a few years back, and guy was super cool to chat with. And we're buds, and we talk a little bit. And I'm trying to think Kirkness, Maxwell.
Yep.
So Luke Goff. I'm trying to think, man. There's some really good Troy Herfoss. There's some really Aussie. They produce some badass riders. The guys they can bring it, and I have a lot of respect for most of your fan bases. Hopefully, we can bring some new fans over. But yeah, the Aussie fan base, they're great, man. So
that's really cool. And like you're saying, chatting with Troy, you wouldn't when you sit down and talk to him, you wouldn't think he's a 3-time world champion in superbikes. He's just so down to earth. Dude,
he's crazy. Yeah, Aussie guys are crazy. Like, they're just wild. Like, they go hard. Like, the videos I see, any crazy moto video I see, it could be a guy jumping it could be something fucking crazy. You look at where it's from, it's Australia. Like, just the berm riding walls, jumping shit, riding on the beach, just all the stuff that they do, the video content from Aussie land it's like the best. I love it. Keep them coming. Like, keep the Aussie videos coming. They're so good.
We'll bring that MT-07 down here, and it'd be awesome to have you here, and you never know.
I'll be there. It's at some point I'm going to make a trip over there. I just, right now it's like a big job to go to the grocery store. So
yeah, it's too hard to travel anyway.
Dude, it is. Well, for us, it's a third world country over here. I see y'all over there. It's not that bad, but over here it's like, shoo, it's like a big job. But yeah, when everything gets better and all this shit's gone, I'll make a trip, and we'll get together and for sure. So I appreciate you having me.
Awesome, man. Well, take care, and thanks for everything, eh?
Yeah, man. Thanks for what you're doing for racing and the sport, and we appreciate it. Peace.